All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now take 3 of this morning's Facebook Live. So we will see if we are live here. My husband is running tech support for me to see what the hell is going on, Facebook. Too much advertising of Facebook Live. So, okay, it looks like we're good. So don't leave. Okay, don't leave. Don't leave me. No, don't leave me. Okay. We're talking about ideas today. We're talking about managing ideas. We're talking about having ideas. We're talking about that feeling we have sometimes when we feel tortured by ideas, or the concern that, holy crap, what if somebody else takes my idea? Let's face it, we've all been there, especially as creative people, if we're entrepreneurs, or even worse, if you're thinking about starting a business and you get a great idea, which you think is a great idea, and either you find out other people are already doing it or nobody's doing it, but you find yourself suddenly not wanting to talk about it because what if somebody else does it? If you speak it, maybe somebody else will do it before you can. So we're going to have a conversation about all of this today. And just a reminder that this is totally interactive, even though that we are on kind of a time delay here. I think we measured it and it's something like 13 or 15 seconds of a time delay, so I might not respond to you right away as we're chatting. If you get questions as things come along, or if you've got ideas as things come along, feel free to put them in the chat so that we can have a conversation as we go, because this is a good discussion. We want this to be useful for you. So one of the things that I have dealt with for my entire life is having a large number of ideas all the time, and being a creative person and getting so excited about new ideas and not knowing what to do with them. And especially in business, a lot of us deal with what I like to call shiny ball syndrome. Or if those of you are dealing with or are part of what I call my purple squirrel society, you may have what we call shiny nut syndrome. And if you just thought or said the words shiny nuts, then as far as I'm concerned, my day is complete. So thank you very much if you thought or said that. All right, so I'm gonna have my cup of tea here as we talk about this. Take a deep breath. I'm very excited today because this new year has me pretty excited. What do we do when we have shiny ball syndrome? This is when we have ideas that take us away from the things we actually need to be focusing on to produce the results we say that we want. So this is the experience of, I've made a decision and I'm headed in this direction and it's going really well and I'm really focused and oh, what's that? Oh, and we get distracted by these ideas because we don't want to let those ideas go. We may be adding on to things. We might have pieces of the puzzle show up at different times if we're creating a business or an enterprise that is multifaceted. We might want to capture all of those. So that's something we need to actually manage and deal with. But let's talk first about the nature of ideas themselves. I read Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, last year, and that book had a profound effect on me, not because it really taught me anything new, but because it affirmed and confirmed some of the things that I've always thought about creativity and about ideas. And this is kind of the phenomenon that that ideas are almost like entities. Not that they are, we're not going to get super woo-woo about this, but it seems to occur sometimes that ideas come out of nowhere. And then if we don't necessarily use those ideas, then all of a sudden we see somebody else doing the same thing. I can't tell you how many times throughout my life I had an idea and gave it away to somebody, and then they took it and ran with it. It's one of the reasons I started a coaching practice, because it happened over and over and over again. But that can be incredibly dissatisfying. It certainly was for me to hear that an idea I had given somebody else was now being very successful for them, but yet here I was still just generating ideas and not necessarily following through on them. That is the curse of the creative. The abundance of ideas and feeling paralyzed by not knowing which one you should take action on first. When I was in graduate school, my husband and I were newly married, and we got married and moved right away to North Carolina, which in hindsight was a really dubious idea. It was incredibly stressful on our relationship, but we got through it, clearly, because we've been married now for what is it, 18 years? I don't even know. That's how long we've been married. And that I'm an external thinker, clearly, and I'm an extrovert. My husband is an internal thinker and kind of rides the line between introvert and extrovert. So I process a lot out loud, particularly my ideas. And so as I was in graduate school and we were looking at different thoughts and different ideas about what we were going to do next, I would process this verbally out loud. And I had so many ideas and so many things that came to me about what to do next that at one point, Dave in his frustration kind of threw his arms up and said, "You can't have any more ideas. We're going to end up emu farming in Montana." And so emu farming has kind of become a catchphrase ever since in our almost 19 years of marriage, as my husband pointed out in the thread. Thank you, dear. And so now anytime that I'm in a situation where I'm generating ideas and there's a bunch of them, he'll say to me, "Okay, well, are these ideas that you're going to actually find a place for, or is this just emu farming?" So that's what I'll turn back to you. And this is the first place we look when we're evaluating what is going to be a good idea, what do we need to be doing now, and what do we do with the ideas that we're not taking action on now. So when we're looking at an idea, it's almost as though you have to bring it outside of yourself. So if you imagine that your idea is actually a shiny ball, let's picture it as a snow globe, right? It's winter in most parts in the US and North America right now, so let's talk about that. Imagine that your idea is a snow globe. Take a look at it and look at all the parts of it. What do you like about it? What has you so enamored about it? How do you see that it connects with the other things that you're thinking about doing or you're already doing? Will it slide in easily? Or is it something that's going to take you completely in another direction? Is it something that is a missing piece idea that fits in beautifully with the other things you have going on? Or is it something that might come into play later? So if you take the time to examine your idea, like I said, hold it up like a snow globe and really examine it, then that will give you a lot more insight about where you're going to put it. So if you find that your idea is a good idea for now and it fits with what you're already doing, it's going to make something easier, better, faster, more profitable, more enjoyable, any of those categories, then you want to put it into your plan. And of course, this is why it's a good idea to have a very flexible, very creative, very strategic vision plan. And that way you can slide that in and incorporate that idea into what you're already doing. If your idea is a good idea, but is for later in the same process, again, you have a plan, you can put it in there. You can slide it right in, and that way it'll hold it for you. You have a holding center for your ideas, a benevolent holding center for your ideas. And if it's an idea that you want to hang on to and you don't want to let go of, but it doesn't really fit in anything that you're doing and you just want to keep track of it, then what you do is you put it in what I call a geosync folder. So the idea of geosync is kind of like a satellite. So if you imagine you are the center of the universe, you are the earth, you are the sun, and you've got ideas that are in orbit around you. That is, synchronized with you. It's not going anywhere. It's still held in by your gravity. And yet at the same time, it's not necessarily interfering with what you're doing at the moment. So when I'm working with my clients, we create what's called a geosync folder. And this is just a folder on your computer or in Google Drive or however you manage your files. And that is where you keep track of your good ideas. And every couple of months, you review your ideas that you put in your geosync file. So it's not taking up brain space. It's not creating anxiety by being in your space. You know it's there. You know it's still a good idea. And then you review that as you review your vision plan every couple of months so that you can see if any of those ideas would be useful to integrate into your plan at the current time, or if you just want to leave them in geosync, or if you want to give them away. Sometimes giving away ideas can be the most satisfying thing if you're willing and ready to let them go. Now, this about a year and a half ago now, I launched the publishing arm of my company, publishing audiobooks and publishing podcasts. But that was not the first time I had had that idea. Now, for those of you who don't know me super well, you might not know that I have been a voice actor as a hobby, paid hobby, for a bunch of years. And years ago, we're talking about 5 years ago or more now, I was trained in how to narrate and publish audiobooks as part of that voice actor training. And when I did that at that time, I was business coaching. I had just launched my practice. I saw a real gap in the market between people who were publishing books, and self-publishing was really on the massive hot at that time, still is, but it was particularly hot at that time. And I said, well, why isn't everyone turning their books into audiobooks? This isn't rocket science, it's not hard. And that is indeed still the case today. But at the time, I had to put the idea of doing audiobook production and publishing into GeoSync because it wasn't a priority for me to do at the time. But the idea never went away. I kept it in GeoSync. I kept it alive. I kept my eye on the industry. I kept my eye on what was happening for people in publishing, because, you know, my two longest loves in this world are books and microphones. Audiobooks, I mean, could it be a better fit, right? So I kept my eye on it and kept it kind of on the side of my plan. And then it became very obvious to me a little over 1.5 years ago that it was time. It was time to expand, and it was time to start offering these services. So when I did the market research, I was able to determine which way to go, whether I was going to start by building a course or start by offering done-for-you services. My colleagues were great and filled out a survey, and that really helped me make a decision. That little Google survey made such a big difference for me because I was able to determine which product to develop first. And this goes so well in this whole idea of idea creation, the idea of idea creation. That's meta. Because when we have the idea, sometimes we're able to see the steps to bring it into reality, and sometimes we can just see the end point. So again, when we hold up and evaluate that idea like a snow globe and ask all those questions that I went over earlier about, where does it fit and what would it take, and giving ourselves the time, this think time, to process and give ourselves these good ideas and find out where our ideas go, it just makes life so much easier. And I was fortunate because that idea that I had, because I kept my eye on the industry and I, kept track of that idea, I still have a unique place in the market. As a matter of fact, I'm still further ahead of the market than I even thought that I was. I thought this, audiobook production was way more prevalent than it was. So that gives me an opportunity to really educate people and really be at the forefront of making things happen for authors and business people who are authors. So that's very exciting to me, again, as an idea person and as a creative. So let's go back a little bit to this whole idea of what I call an idea capture and release program. If we think of ideas as these little things that kind of float around and they kind of come to us, and sometimes that's how it feels. It feels like all of a sudden it's like, whoo, we're being invaded by an idea, or we get this kind of feeling of a download. And then it's, what do I do with it? This is where a little bit of habit building comes in really, really handy. Most of us have our phones with us nearly all the time. And this is where I would recommend that you take your phone and you have a spot on your phone, whether it is a file in your email or if it's a note place on your phone, that you keep a running list of ideas. And this actually will help you create your GeoSync file as well, because you can sync your GeoSync file between your computer or wherever you kind of keep things in long-term storage, and kind of the short-term, in the moment, blah, I have an idea, capture. So that is where we capture, because we don't have ideas in the most convenient places. Think about it. When's the last time you had a really rockin' idea sitting at a desk working in an office? It doesn't usually happen, right? It's at the gym on a treadmill. It's while we're driving. It's while we're on a walk. It's while we're listening to a podcast. It's while we're reading a book. It's while we're in conversation with somebody. We're using different parts of our brains, and then the ideas kind of arise through that process. So we need a place that is going to be a quick capture. And I even say that, you want to do this by voice even more than writing it down, and use your your Siri, or what is it called, Cortana, or whatever voice activated thing you have to capture your idea, because that's going to be even faster than scrambling for a pen and paper. Now, for those of you who are hardcore journalers and you always have a journal with you, well, then that's another animal. So if you've always got something to write with and write on with you, and you already have that habit, then add this onto it. Whatever's going to be the most downstream for you. And if you notice where you have good ideas, keep your trap alive and ready and waiting in those places. If you go to the gym in the morning and you know that you tend to have good ideas while you're on the elliptical machine, or you love to go for a morning walk and that's where you tend to have ideas, or even in the shower. Shower's a big idea place, right? Then have something nearby that you can capture those ideas. You may need a waterproof idea capture method. Who knows? Hey, there's an idea for you. All right, the other part of, so we've talked about idea evaluation. We've talked about how to put your ideas in geosync, or how to get them into a plan right away. And I want to talk a little bit about think time. So Bill Gates famously said, I keep my plate full at 60%. Now, if you think about somebody like Bill Gates, who had such large enterprises, the first time I heard that quote, it really surprised me. And what he was talking about was that he left 40% of his time, or he tried to leave 40% of his time, for thinking, for creative time, for reading, for writing, for those things that might seem idle on the surface, but that are actually the lifeblood of creativity, and that are the lifeblood of allowing your plans, allowing your actions to be more streamlined and to be smoother and to be more in alignment. Because all of us can get, I know I certainly do, I can get really caught up in the hamster wheel of the day-to-day life, right? The nut gathering and the nut storing and the oh, I got to get ready for winter, or oh, I got to get ready for summer, or oh, I got to get ready for my next launch, or this next program, or this next package. We get caught up in a lot of that busyness. When we allow ourselves time, and believe me, this is something that I still really have to be intentional about working into my schedule. When we allow ourselves our time for our brains to go into a different mode, then we get far more effective when we do take action. I want to give a quick shout out to a couple of my lovely, lovely, darling colleagues and friends who have been on the recording today. So to Trisha, and this is my romper room section. I love, I need the mirror, the magic mirror, or whatever it was. Say hi to Trisha and to Amanda and some other folks who joined us here today. So thank you for your listening and for your comments. So getting back to the think time idea, if there are things that you love to do, let's say you like to journal, or you want to be reading a little bit, or that you like to draw, or you need an artistic outlet, or you dance, or you sing, or you just need time for your brain to do nothing. Nothing is actually very, very important, and it's particularly in today's culture, in today's society, we're not encouraged to be idle. We're not encouraged to take not even downtime, because downtime kind of implies that we are, falling on our faces exhausted, which we are most of the time. But if we actually take creative time, think time, brain time to process, to allow ourselves to kind of mentally wander, or to indulge and really these wonderful, juicy things that we love to do, moving our bodies, exercising our voices, writing, drawing, reading, whatever it is that really turns us on, then that brings us back so much more rejuvenated, so much more effective when we do have those actions then that we need to take. And we can go about it with a good will and with enthusiasm and with excitement. And things go, as my dear friend Candy Barone would say, from being a have to a get to. So instead of saying, well, I have to get this done, then your mind is able to change and we're able to say, hey, I get to go do this. And that is the sweet spot in life. So let's back up for a minute here and just recap some of the ideas that we had about ideas. Oh, and before we go, I did want to mention to y'all that if you are not familiar with my podcast, which is audio only, not video, the Start Something Show, we're about to release season 2 of the Start Something Show, which is these bite-sized but very in-depth conversations with experts from all over the world about their success, and they're giving you training, these little mini training pieces, as well as some of the stories about their lives and what they overcame to do what they do, pulling back the curtain on what it really takes so that we feel connected, right? Success stories are great, but we really bond over our failures and our bumps in the road and all the things that we've had to overcome. So I had this incredible group of people from all different walks of life, different parts of businesses, very diverse, who are sharing different ways to build business, different ways to unleash your message, different ways to get over mindset stuff, like all kinds of things that we have to deal with as leaders, as creative people, as business people, however you identify. So check out the StartSomethingShow.com, and you'll want to check out season 2 coming up. And if you haven't listened already, you want to catch up on season 1, because there's some really great information in there to support you on your path and on your journey and whatever you're up to at the time. So you can find that on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and wherever podcasts are listened to. So, all right, back to ideas. All right, so ideas may sometimes come to us on a flood. So we need, when we have a place that we know we tend to generate ideas, the car, the shower, the gym, whatever, have an idea capture method nearby. Voice is faster than writing, unless you're somebody who already has a strong writing habit. Then, once you have that idea, you want to look at it like a snow globe. Look at it in its entirety. Look at all the missing parts and start to ask yourself questions like, does this idea fit into what I'm already doing? And if so, does it make what I'm already doing faster, better, easier, more profitable, or more enjoyable? Is it a now idea, a little bit later idea, or is it something that I need to put into GeoSync so that I can pull it out and evaluate my list of ideas every couple of months and see if there's anything I want to bring into my current actions, my current plan, or knowing that it's safe up in my little GeoSync folder, knowing that it's not going anywhere, that'll just calm my brain down and alleviate any anxiety. All right, and then as you're putting ideas into play, you do need a plan. It doesn't have to be a hard plan. You know, my strategic vision plans that I do with people end up being about 2 pages long. They're very concise and very juicy and very inspiring. That's the kind of plan you want to have as a creative person. You don't need a business plan necessarily, not to guide you day to day. You need something that's going to guide you day to day. And a book this thick that's full of statistics, for most people, isn't going to be that. For those of us who are creative and want to keep things flexible, these strategic vision plans are so awesome. And you can always contact me if you want to find out how to create one of those, because those are really fun to do. All right, my dear. So this week, if you've got ideas, please feel free to share them. If you've got ideas about what you're going to be doing this year, put them on the thread below. Put them in the comments. I want to hear what you're up to this year, right? If you want to be getting support on your ideas and how to bring them into reality, a couple of Facebook groups that I recommend are Online Creators Launchpad. If you're a podcaster, go to Podcasters Hangout or She Podcasts if you're a woman podcaster. There's some other great, there's wonderful book groups. I think you can actually look at the groups that I belong to if you want to check out any of those. There's some great book groups if you're an author and you want help. The Florida Writers Association has a great group if you're here in Florida. Start to get involved in the conversation and use Facebook for good, not just for ranting and cat pictures. I'm a big fan of ranting and cat pictures, but you can use Facebook for a lot more in-depth discussion on specific topics if you want to take these ideas and bring them into reality. So, and oh my goodness, so Amanda, my friend Amanda, who we refer to as the Beer Fairy, and her show, The Great Beer Adventure, is creating an adult beer-themed activity book. David, my wonderful husband, is in the midst of pursuing some wonderful studies in agricultural and organic agricultural management. I'm very excited about what he's creating. So he's going to be experimenting with lots of things in chemistry this year. Amanda's also doing a beer geek retreat. So people are having great ideas, right? This year, just coming up in February, we're going to be having a PodFest here in Orlando. That is a hotbed of ideas. And so if you're a podcaster or you're thinking about podcasting or you're doing other multimedia things for your business or for your hobby, check out podfest.us, I believe it is, and see if that's a good fit for you to come down to Orlando, because that is an incredible group of creative people, and I'm very happy to be one of the speakers at that event this year. So that is all, I think, for today. Also remember to check out the StartSomethingShow.com and come and check out old episodes, and season 2 will be out in a couple of weeks. So I'd love to support you by giving you that show as a resource for sure. So thank you guys. Have a great week. Keep the ideas coming and keep wrangling them and making them work for you. Okay? Let's see you soon.